everybody, my name is Mark Stanifer. He is Craig Fullen, and welcome to another installment of From Surviving to Thriving, helping you excel in this new normal. Well, today we're going to be talking about the topic of expectations. And the reality is we all have expectations of each other, whether it's in a work context or in a home context. We approach relationships with expectations. However, when we're not clear on what our expectations are, or when we haven't communicated clearly with the other party what those expectations are, this can be a recipe for significant frustration and relational conflict. So that's why we're talking about it today.
Yeah, Mark, and you indicated that we all have expectations with respect to other people and relationships, but so many times we also have expectations regarding the situations we're in. And sometimes we may not be fully aware of the expectations that we should have and whether they're realistic. You know, for example, with the coronavirus, a lot of people with their work situations have been altered, and they really weren't expecting that, or maybe they should have, given the things that were trending. And so, you know, they kind of were caught off guard in that situation.
Yeah, and you know, Craig, whenever I get into the topic of expectations, it always takes me back to a story from a winter or two ago where my wife and I were out of town for an extended weekend. And while we were away, Mother Nature delivered a few inches of snow onto the ground. And so we asked our younger two, who were staying at home at the time, to shovel the driveway, what I thought to be a very simple request. So message sent. They shoveled the driveway, message received, and so we thought everything was good until we pulled up to our driveway, and I just had to pause. Now, I should say my driveway is fairly large, and it's not exactly the funnest thing to do, and the two kids that I'd asked to do it don't necessarily enjoy this type of work, but I still thought the driveway would be shoveled. Well, apparently, their expectation for what that meant was quite different, because when I pulled up to the driveway, all I saw, Craig, were two shovel tracks all the way from the street to the garage. And I literally stopped in the street and thought, are you kidding me? That's not shoveling the driveway. I would never do a job like that. What part of shoveling the driveway did you not understand? And instantly, I was starting to get frustrated and angry about the job that they didn't do. Now, in the end, it worked out. We were able to work through it. But boy, initially, Craig, and I was just feeling that strong emotion of frustration because it's not how I expected the job to be done.
Well, it sounds like, Mark, you attributed certain meanings to those expectations. And I'm sure your kids were sitting inside very comfortable, probably enjoying themselves, while you were getting all upset about this.
Yeah, that's right. You're exactly right. The meaning that I was making of this situation was they disobeyed me as a dad. They should know better. They disrespected me as the dad and the giver of the responsibility. They should know better. How did you ever think I would approve of work like that? Like, did you just phone this in? So that's what I was feeling at the time. And as I started to engage them with my frustration and my anger, I realized, well, they didn't understand why I was so upset. They got the job done. It met their expectations. And so I had to move past the scenario of where they were deliberately trying to frustrate me and anger me and do shoddy work, so to speak, and realize that, well, this was just an example where we had different expectations. And until we talked about it and clarified it, it had the potential to be a pretty big dust up in the Stanifer household.
No doubt, but you got to give props to your kids for being very efficient in their snow shovel.
Yes, that's one way to look at it.
So what other lessons should we take from this?
Well, that's a great question. And it makes me think about those that are listening, watching, you viewers. How can you become aware of those expectations? Craig, as you know, we talk a lot about if you can't see it, you can't change it. So how do you become aware of expectations? Well, the first thing I would say is Go back in time in recent past and find an event that was really frustrating or disappointing to you, and sit in that event for a little bit and begin to identify what expectations you took into that circumstance, that event, that relationship. And once you've identified them, go a little bit deeper. Take a little bit more of a courageous step toward assessing those expectations and ask yourself, were they realistic? Were they just assumptions that you made about what might happen? Were they clear? Did you make your expectations clear to yourself and clear to the other party? Were you and the other party on the same page? The questions could go and go and go, but assess them. Ask yourself a couple of hard questions, and then go a step further and realize, like I did, that there's probably some part of this that you got to own. The part that I had to own was I didn't clearly communicate. I wasn't clear. What I thought was clear in my mind was clearly not. So what part of that situation do you need to own? And then the final step is, what part do you just need to let go? And then chalk this up to a learning experience. You've gained awareness, and then move forward into future scenarios and relationships and situations a little bit smarter and a little bit more aware about the expectations that you carry in.
That sounds great. And I wasn't expecting my expectations at my door to open unexpectedly, which my dog just pushed it in. But to recap some of the lessons that you've given us, Mark, one is definitely being aware of those expectations and assessing them. And you mentioned whether they're realistic or not. And you've got to communicate them to another person if another person's involved with that situation. And then you've got to, control what you can control and let go of the rest, right?
That's right. That's right. And Craig, you know this, in this situation where people are now living, working, and doing school and work and life together all in the same space, in the home, and as colleagues and coworkers are now separated and trying to figure out how to work together in remote ways and in remote locations, it's all the more important to be clear and to communicate well. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a recipe for frustration and disappointment and conflict because of these uncommunicated and unmet expectations.
That sounds good. And I'll just add one more example. So once we get back to our normal life and our parents are back to attending their kids' sporting events, I mean, how often have you seen the out of control sports parent, right? The person is getting upset about how their kid's playing, what the other team is doing, the coaches, the umpires, the referees, whatever. But usually that's because that parent has an expectation regarding the situation or how their kid's going to play or whatever that they really haven't evaluated and assessed. And so because that's such a prevalent issue in our society, and I thought a lot of parents could relate to that, either from their own situation or other parents that they've seen, I thought I'd throw out that example. But that sounds great.
Yeah, it's a great example, Craig. And it's another reminder that this applies in any and all situations where you're interacting with another person or in a situation. So the takeaway here, the lesson is, how can you be more aware of the expectations that you carry in and the expectations that that other person or situation is coming with? Understand them and then clearly communicate them. And if you grow in this area, it will be an effective way to reduce your frustration and your interpersonal conflict, or at least the potential for that conflict. All right. Well, Craig, as always, it's been a blast. Thanks for your thoughts today and some good questions. And viewers, if you want to connect with us, we would love to hear from you. You can find our contact information here at the end of this video and just hit us up whatever way is convenient. Okay. Until next time, take care, everybody. We will see you later.
Take care.